Hi guys, good afternoon. Hope you guys had a good lunch. Have you had lunch already? Yes, yes. Okay, so I'm expecting a lot of energy from the audience today. Okay, so yeah, our panel today is reviving GameFi beyond speculation toward play. And so before we go into the questions, maybe we can do a round of introductions. We can start with Darren and then all the way to Kosit. Yeah, go ahead.
Hello everyone, my name is Darren. I'm the CMO of Tomoland. I would say we're more than just a game. We're an imagination platform where you can create UGC worlds, create avatars, have your own avatar economy inside the game. So everything you can imagine, you can build and play inside our game.
Hey guys, my name is Ronald. Some of you know me. I was with an L2 before. I was the head of BD at Ancient A gaming-focused layer 2, built on optimism. Recently, I left my previous role 3 weeks ago. I started building my own, the co-contributor Hyperbuilder is like an onboarding gateway for Hyperliquid projects, Maxi's enthusiasts, to enter the Hyperliquid ecosystem.
I'm Kosit. I'm a CSO for the Boredtopia. The Boredtopia is built on the SAY ecosystems, and we're focusing on onboard people, and also my experience is to do some kind of the user-generated content and also the communities. And for now, we try to integrate the new Web 2 to Web 3 for the gamers.
All right, and I'm Gillian. I'll be the moderator for this panel today. All right, so I guess let's address the big elephant in the room, reviving GameFi. So when you say reviving GameFi, it suggests that the general sentiment is that it's dead, or at least like in a coma, right? So despite attempts to move past play to earn or complaints about fun, extractive models, and broken economy, still we find ourselves here today. So from your vantage point, I know you guys come from different backgrounds, right? What's the core issue that keeps holding the space back?
I think one thing is that we need to face reality. If you look at the last cycle, even this cycle, most of the games that we see are incomplete. They're barely up until MVP phase. So imagine if you used to go back 10 years ago and buy a PlayStation 2 game, would you actually pay for a demo when they're actually free? So this is the issue here. We're raising millions of dollars just to produce MVP quality games. So which really shows that subconsciously, when we play these Web3 games, we know the life expectancy of these games will only last up until TG or post 6 months up until TG. So until we get rid of this corruption that we're just paying ourselves huge salaries just to deliver demos in a game, we'll never be able to move forward. So I think this is the one thing we need to eliminate in the space.
Well, I mean, coming from a gaming background, I was an esports player at some point. Obviously, I have both positives and negatives to say, mostly negative at this point. I'm sorry if I hurt anyone's sentiments, but I think like at this point, what gaming studios are doing is like they're focusing like finance as a feature, but they are forgetting like, you know, the core thing, which is fun as the foundation, right? That's when I started as a gamer, I think that is the thing. Like, if it's not fun, if it's not culturally relevant, I'm not going to play that game. So I think this is the missing piece in most of the studios. So that's why they're getting more extractors rather than players. So I think that's something that if that doesn't change, it's been a few years now. I think it's still we are like an infinite loop, but I believe that, I have a reason to believe if that doesn't change, then it's going to be a very hard time for developers, for builders, even for game studios, those who are building on Web3. Yeah.
Because we're all cannibalizing on the same pool of users, right? The same user from the last cycle up until this cycle.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, for the last cycles, I think in that time, the GameFi is really new, not only for us. It's for like people in Web3, and you know everything is formal. So everyone just not looking for like just only the fun thing or the principles to work on, because we need to build the games. I mean, competing with the times, especially with time to market and everything. So that's why I mean, for the game is not even like the users, the gamers is not well educated. So they lost a lot of money and they try to build any other route. So this time, I mean, people now they know, I mean, if you go too fast or the game is not that fun, they think, oh, could be like, take over your money. So for now, even the game studio, they need to separate into two scenarios. The first one, they're focusing on the people who really pay for the game, who really would like to do the communities, to be someone, to be the culturals or the social thing. And another guys is about the reward hunters or, the crypto, the crypto trader or something. So we have focused in both sides. That is, would be like the thing that we have concern.
Gotcha. So what I'm taking here from what you're saying is that ultimately we've set unrealistic expectations as to what people should expect from the games because of the extractive or the TGEs and all of that kind of come ahead of delivering an actual playable, fun, interesting game. So I guess before we look into the future of what that could look like, I want to ask each of you, maybe like a trip down memory lane or maybe in the present as well, what Web3 game, dead or alive, genuinely left a mark on you, and what can we learn from what it got right or what it got wrong? So anything specifically that you felt like they should have doubled down on, or any game right now that kind of you think on the right track?
My favorite up until a few months ago was Tokyo Beast. In terms of graphical, visually, aesthetically pleasing graphics, it was very on par with traditional games. So it's something you would expect, and I think this should be the lowest bar. If things are on 4K quality, you should produce games on 4K quality. When I see games that are making Game Boy graphics, and they're saying they're making it because of nostalgia, which is really BS to me. You cannot raise $20 million, just produce Game Boy graphics. But Tokyo Beast really hit on point here. But recently they closed down the game, so it's off my list now. The new one on top of my list is Pudgy Party. So no matter how you review this game, whether it's graphics, gameplay, quality, narrative, even IP, intuition, it's very on par. So this is the one that's very closest to one of my favorite games right now. And you can see right now, without even releasing a token for that game or even NFTs, you can see it's already reached #1 on the app stores and how it should be. So it's my favorite game, not just a favorite Web3 game, but a favorite game in general now.
Right. Kind of agree with what Darren said. I mean, I don't really have a favorite game, but I have a game that I would say that taught me a lesson in being in Web3. I was in traditional Web2 background before. When I entered Web3, of course, I had trading experience, but I came from a traditional gaming to Web3 gaming, so I saw the transition. What I felt was like Axie is one of those games that really is not really how much money it distributed to the players or something, but it taught a real lesson, not just to me, but I think to a lot of individuals in this industry, is how it can mobilize the Southeast Asian market, like emerging markets, I would say. Emerging markets, I'll rephrase. And how much value it can provide to. So this guild system, the clans, these all evolved during that time. And as far as I remember, I think there were lots of handheld device players who switched from traditional gaming to Web3 gaming because of Axie. But then gradually it faded, right? Right now, it's basically there's no one talking about it because they're not getting enough. The only reason they joined because they could build their guilds and then they could earn that revenue. So as soon as it stopped generating revenue, it was basically blank. All right, there's nothing left. So it really it tried somehow bringing that culture, but it couldn't sustain itself. So there was basically nothing left at the end. But there are obviously some games I feel like, they're not that big, but still I feel they're quite engaging. They don't need core Web3 mechanics, but they're still on-chain. Like, for example, I played a game called Fishing Frenzy, this Dark Forest as well. They're pretty, they're nice, they're fun, I still play sometimes. I wouldn't say that I'm playing that every day, but I still feel like I can go back and play. You know, catch some fish and then fry them. Yeah, but yeah, that's my lesson from Web3, from Web3 gaming. Yeah.
Okay, when we talk about the game on Web 2 and Web 3, as you can see, like for the Web 2, people like very well educated. I mean, they know how to like buy an item, do something with the game. Especially the game, they can like make in a very high performance, like a AAA game. So the problem is that when you would like to make that kind of game, which very hit hype, you take a lot of money. So most of students I knew, I mean, our friends, they run out of money before they can launch. So you can see a big game in Web3 also, right? So this comes to the basics. So the game should be the educations for educated people to get into the Web3. For example, they learn how to use a wallet and any other thing. And finally, I mean, they can convert those guys into like a DeFi or any other thing that they can use in their daily life. That's it.
Gotcha. So I think there's one thing, I think what you guys are talking about, I mean, there's games that have found some initial adoption, but ultimately kind of the drop-off of users is quite high for one reason or another. And I guess whether in Web 2 or Web 3, retention and engagement is always a struggle or a challenge for games. And I wonder, in terms of what you've seen, like in terms of experiments, in terms of gameplay improvements, or even like different programmable models, such as, I think you mentioned Fishing Frenzy, so they've integrated app tokens as well. So there's a lot of these new things that we're trying, coming from the learnings of the past. But do you have specific mechanics you've seen that, you think work best so far? I think you've mentioned some, like you mentioned the success of Pudgy Party. Like what about it do you think is driving people to actually keep playing? And also with other games that are in the market right now. I know also it could also be, if not mechanics, maybe genre specific. I know Boredtopia is more on a fully on-chain gaming side, and I wonder if you're seeing a different kind of niche set of people who are kind of getting locked in or more engaged in that particular genre than, let's say maybe a shooter or that, historically has not performed very well in the Web3 space. So, yeah.
I would say the biggest issue is not the strategy, but the target, the demographic which we are targeting. So if you look at previous cycles where we looked at play to earn, play to airdrop, we always target the same users, the people who really care about incentives. And there's always a motto which I say, incentives drives attention, but it's the gameplay that actually has retention. So when we target the same pool of users, we're cannibalizing on the same people that only care about, can I get tokens from playing this for 10 hours a day? But now if you look at Pudgy Party, they did nothing of this. They start to lay the foundation of traditional gamers. So if you look at their Instagram, they have like over 1 billion views on just their GIFs alone, like hundreds of millions of views on their Reels. So they start laying the foundation to step outside of this pool of Web3 users. It's all to do with the Web2 users now. People that like the brand, so the IP inclusion was very important because I'd like to be part of the huddle, part of the herd, and as human beings, we play because we want to be part of a certain community. So this is why I think community is the way key to move forward in IP, and especially to bring IP into gaming.
Well, I think what Darren said about Pudgy Party. So it was like the reason it's popular, it's just like hype because it already has that IP influence, right? So it had already started out that community. So it's like the existing base of players, right? So existing users, existing NFT holders, right? So it's easier to get, I'm not saying it's easy, but like the thing is it already had generated that enthusiasm from the players. So for example, if I just go out and build a penguin game, it's not going to be, unless I'm spending lots of money on it, like, splashing cash on marketing, and then even like I have good investors, I have good background, it's still going to be difficult unless I have already established games, already have existing games before, where it has like thousands or millions of players. It's going to be pretty straightforward in that case, but otherwise it's going to be very difficult. What I think is retaining players It's like, for example, I think Gillian mentioned about app tokens. It creates complexity somehow for those who are new to the space. But obviously, try bringing the tokenomics model, later, as long as the players are not hooked, right? As soon as they're hooked, then you can bring these concepts later on. It makes more sense because you want the player to be hooked first because they want to play the game. They want to stay in the game, right? So if you want to bring that out, you play for you unlock certain levels, you get paid. And as soon as it fades, they just leave, right? So I think just get the player hooked first and create that, community around your game. If you already have existing games, bring those existing players to your new game. They would love to try those, rather than trying something new. But I think the problem also lies in some of the founders. I mean, you guys might have seen, like, there is also a new concept, cliff to earn, which is like that. It's a concept created by me, actually. So they're getting the money out of the VCs, and then as soon as the time comes, they run away. They just pass it on to some of the core team members, and they're like, I'm not the part of the team anymore. My time is up. Yeah, but it happened. I don't want to name them out of respect, but we have seen a lot. I was about to ask
the follow-up question of naming names, but
I don't want to be.
You don't want to put you on the spot.
What if they're present here? No, I don't want to be rude. Yeah, but that's the truth. That's the truth. Yeah.
So when we talk about the retentions, one thing we have to agree is every game, they have a cycle. They cannot we need not build the Street Fighter or Mario, right? So every game has their cycle, their own cycle. So when we talk about retentions, it's about the value that the game gives to the gamers. Like you say, they have communities, they have absences, you have friends, you have guilds. So every day we meet each other. That is one of the value. So for now, Web3 is focusing. People have a first in mind that we have an incentive, we could get cash or get tokens. So how can we add more values, not only the cash? You also have a tokens, but any other thing, any activities accept you as part of your life or something like that. So that is a thing. Keep it simple and do it as a cycle of a game, not just to push or just let it go. But after the game is down, the retention will be something you start a new one as a cycle. So it could be accumulate the users to the new one. So they keep in your ecosystem. That's it.
Gotcha. All right. So I think what stood out to me was what you said, which is incentives are for adoption, but then really mechanics are for retention. And I think that kind of, that should be plastered on a wall somewhere so that everyone remembers. Within the GameFi space, we kind of take that to heart. Okay, so I think now I'm going to thread into kind of a touchier waters, specifically speculation. I think over the years, speculation, especially within games, has earned a bad reputation. Personally, I feel like it's a value proposition of Web3 gaming. I wouldn't say it should be the only value proposition, but it certainly adds value and excitement to the game. I will cite Football.fun as an example. Obviously, it's not a game, but more, I would say gaming adjacent with what it's been able to do, right? So I wonder what your take is on speculation in games, or if you have any good examples outside of, that you've experienced that, wherein these games actually use speculation for good, or has actually driven more users for their game rather than kind of be extractive and toxic.
Speculation, I don't think there's a right or wrong. As long as your game generates money, it's okay. If it prolongs your life expectancy, it's also okay. I feel speculation is good for Web3 and even better for certain genres of Web3. So let's say iGaming is very good. When you have games like Dojo Free, gacha games, these are very good because it actually has betting, gambling elements. So it actually heightens speculation, adds the thrill, and you don't really lose the gameplay element to it. Because gacha games, you're really just doing scratch cards. You don't know what you're going to get. Dojo 3, you're really betting on which token will perform better in the next 30 seconds. This is amazing. We all like gambling to some extent. If you buy tokens, you're gambling. If you do leverage, you're also gambling. So to this extent, iGaming is perfect for speculation Web3.
Well, I mean, it's not inherently bad, but I think I think someone was talking about football fun. I think it was you, football.fun. Yeah, I'm a football player. I used to play a lot of football when I was a kid. And also, I watch a lot of football. So I know the reason it's succeeded. I mean, it's still fairly new, but I think it's because there's so much hype. It's just because it's culturally tied. So if you have played fantasy football, which a lot of, if you're a football fan, you must have played fantasy football. And if you played Football Manager, I think you can relate it somehow. And obviously, you know the players, you know the clubs, and you love your club. Obviously, you have competitors. There are clubs that you hate. So obviously, there are speculations around when it comes to the price of the players, the market value. It's really relevant, okay, and it's really important in Web3 gaming as well. But it has to be culturally tied. For example, if I talk about games, Web2 games, for example, CS:GO, Fortnite, right? They have digital collectibles, right? They're culturally tied, and they're creating that lore. They're creating that sentiment amongst the players that this is something that we should. This asset ownership is important, but it doesn't really devalue of what the core game loop is, right? So obviously, I wouldn't go against. This time, I'm totally with you guys. Like speculation is really good for Web3 gaming. Yeah.
I guess you mean like the more you're culturally tied to something, more you're in love with it, speculation becomes more narrow, almost obsolete in that sense. So wherever your NFTs go down, your token goes down. As long as that my football club might, but players I own in this game are still there. Yeah, it's still good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the speculation is related to the user experience. For example, if you're interested in something before that, not even in your life, you can like have interesting more than a thing that you never seen and never done before. I give you example for the IP game, like RO and Maple Stories. The experience for the people who play the ROs, they go to the dungeons, they got the item and they sell in the secondary market. Yeah, so you can make money by that. In that time, even no Web3 thing. So when they move into Web3, they just like do the NFT thing. When we launch into our language, so people come to like do the auction and everything. On another hand, when you do like the Maple Stories, they didn't have like experience to like buy and sell a lot of items during the guilds in the dungeons. When they get into the Web2, even they are big IP also, but they cannot like do speculation in the thing that you have done before. So I think speculation is not the thing that you can build in like 1-2 months. It's about experience.
So what you're saying is that if you're taking like a community from one place to now Web3, you can't just suddenly insert NFTs when they're not really. It's not something that they're used to prior to coming into the space. And also, I think you guys mentioned at the end of the day, it's not completely bad. It's almost. If it has to be a tool in improving the experience of your game, not a tool to earn money and extract from your players and then move on to the next thing, right? Okay. So you also mentioned, I think a while ago, a lot actually, about dipping into the same pool of users. Like all these games launching with reskinned mechanics, right? All to just kind of play in within the pool of Web3 users. So I think a lot of games always say that they're trying to onboard the next million users from Web2 to Web3, or at least that's the dream. And there have been many attempts through like distribution. Why are you laughing? Sorry. Distribution channels such as Kaya, to kind of penetrate into the non-Web3 apps, or you also have like IP, taking popular legacy IPs from Web2 and then bringing them into Web3. I guess what I wanted to ask you guys is, with all of these efforts, do you think like we're closer to that? What's more effective, or are they really effective as gateways for Web2 users to come into Web3, or is it not working out the way we thought it would?
I would say Kaya Line is doing very, very well in bringing the next wave of users into Web3 because it's a new pool. People who come and play these games, they didn't even know they're playing Web3 games, which is really amazing. And then they start to learn about NFTs, tokens naturally. They're educating themselves because when they first play the game, they don't even know about it, which is really, really amazing. What happened previously is that when 10 games reportedly say, I have 100,000 players, and then when a report comes out, they're saying there's 1 million players in the space, which is really false because it's just 100,000 players playing 10 different games. But with Kaya and Line, they actually bring a new wave. They can really onboard the next 1 billion into the space. And these players were thinking, oh, how about we go and play other games in the space now? So with more of these new people who are not burnt by Web3, who are not burnt by buying different tokens or memes, they would be more inclined to play more Web3 games into the future. So really props for Kaya on this one.
Well, when it comes to people saying like we onboard the next million of Web3 users, I honestly don't believe that because they're not million Web3 gamers. But I can say there are million Web3 users, obviously. There are million traders, but definitely not gamers. But the point is, what Kaya, even like Ton, what they did was they had the mini games, they had the mini apps, which is great. They onboarded players, but they had the existing users, like Line users, right? So they had the Telegram users. So these are the users who tried these games. So there could be like non-Web3 people as well. So obviously now you have the right to say that, yes, we have 1 million users because you actually got the users from your Line app or let's say Telegram app. So it makes sense there, but obviously when it comes to like retaining those users, you have to have, because these games, they have low LTV, right? So they don't stay too long. So you have to come up with new, different engaging games or like even mini games. It has to be a lot more than just single game that you're expecting your players to be retained for like really for ages. It's not going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. When we talking about the Gaia and any other thing is we could put into the one page that is a Web3 thing game. So it's now people before they go to the mass gamers. We will start with early adopters. Of course, it takes time in that period. So this time we just pass from the early adopters to be like the pioneer people to get into here. The keyword is not about, you should find the app that have only like 200 million, 500 millions, because that is not really a target. So a target should be like, you convert the people who have only play and they get the benefits from that, have a value of that to be a contributors or the ambassadors. They will like doing the word of mouth because the people, when you ask your friends, family to play together, it's, they can trust and they can like keep doing it without you paying for the marketing. Otherwise, most of games just go, push into the marketing, 3-4 months after that, they just end the cycles. If you would like to make it longer, you have to, focusing on like convert the users into like the contributors. That's the thing. Don't just focus on, Ton have like you 500 million something, but you can difficult to just like move into the Web3. That is the thing.
All right. Okay, so we have a few minutes left. So to hopefully end this panel on a more positive note, I was curious to ask, do you guys see any underappreciated like bright spots right now in GameFi? Maybe like signaling that, a revival could be at arm's reach or, in the near future. And what do you think builders should be doubling down on moving forward?
I think we've entered the age where marketing is more important than the product. It's unfortunate to some extent, but it's reality. So builders actually need to know how to market themselves and market their product much better. So a good example is Kaya. I would say out of all the gaming ecosystems, they have not just the most amount of users, but they have the most amount of potential users coming to Web3. If you look at their games like Bombi, they have hundreds of thousands of players, but nobody knows about it. Everyone knows Off the Grid, MapleStory, they're on Avalanche, but no one knows many of the Kaya games because Kaya sadly just don't do great Web3 marketing. So for builders out there, if you're building great games, know how to understand Web 2 marketing as well as Web 3 marketing. Combine them together and you would have an amazing product that can succeed and prevail.
For me, I think I would say just make a game. Don't make it a trading app and with a gaming UI layer on top of that. If you're building a game, just build a game, have a conviction, learn something from the Web 2 games, how they have ingrained that culture and community sentiment, and then grown their player base. Learn from that. Obviously, it has worked for years, for ages. Obviously, it will work in Web 3 as well, I hope, at some point. I think that's my take.
Yeah, I would say game is an entertainment. So as long as you're having fun doing that, I mean, it is the right way. It should be like that.
Game should be entertaining. I think that's the one-liner we should take away from this talk. Thank you to our esteemed panel of speakers, and thank you everybody for listening. Should we take a photo before we go down the stage?
Thank you for coming, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all very much. Give it up for our speakers.